Hi, I'm Dr. John Harper from beautiful Oceanside, California, and I'm here with you today to let you know that you too can beat autoimmune conditions. Think of this: finding a solution to your problem, finding a doctor who is going to walk you through the steps, that is going to help you stop the frustration, the suffering, the going from doctor to doctor, going and taking medications, pills, shots, surgeries, being told all kinds of different things by different people, only to continue to just get worse. And not only getting worse, but you're developing other areas of autoimmune problems. And you know what? You can do it all naturally. So today we're going to talk about introduction to metabolic testing, functional nutrition, and functional neurology for autoimmune conditions. So today in this lecture here, we're going to talk about what are autoimmune conditions, what causes autoimmune conditions, and most importantly, how do you get your health back? I always introduce myself. I'm Dr. John Harper. I've been in private practice in Oceanside since 1986. I have personally consulted, examined, and treated over 7,250 patients in that time. In that time, you learn how to listen to patients. You learn how to pick up on the things that they want, not what I want for them. And you learn how to work with people to get their goals taken care of for their health so they can go back and enjoy life again. I'm a board member of the American Functional Neurology Institute. You may be wondering, what does neurology have to do with autoimmune problems? Well, I'll be explaining that very clearly. I've been granted numerous awards and certifications in my 30 years of practice. It is an amazing journey, and I'll share that with you a little bit here in a moment. The evolution of how I have come to find how to get to the underlying causes of people's problems instead of just covering them up with medications or supplements, and how to really truly get people back to enjoying life again. One of the main things that I want to stress is that I regularly attend conferences and symposiums to stay on top of the newest research, diagnostics, and protocols. There's been studies done that when checking with physicians and other doctors, that they are 17 years behind in research. 17 years. Now, I have this phone right here, and I really like my phone. It's got a great camera in it. I could call anywhere in the world. My brother, he lives in Europe. I can go on my phone and Skype with him and see him and his family. And it's an amazing piece of equipment. And yet, what was I using 17 years ago? What was the phone I was using in 1996? I was kind of behind the times maybe a little bit. I think I was still using a pager back then. And, when you go into your physician and you were looking for that doctor for help, and the physician would be using a phone from 17 years ago, you'd start to wonder, why is he or she so far behind in the times? Well, you don't see them using a phone like that, but what you don't know, but you do now, they're using 17-year-old methods to take care of you. If the technology of the phone is advanced in 17 years, you would think the technology and the protocols and the research have certainly advanced in something so important as autoimmune conditions. Personally, I'm a third-generation Southern Californian. I love Oceanside. I feel very blessed to be here. I have 4 children of my own, and I have 4 grandkids, and so a very blessed life. So, this is me. This is the reason why I am an expert in autoimmune conditions. About 6 years ago, I started gaining weight. I started becoming lethargic. I'm 6'4" in this picture. I weighed 333 pounds. Even for a 6'4" person, that's way too much weight. I put on 80 pounds in 3 years. I went from a 5-day week practice, 8-9 hours a day, went down to a 4-day practice and only could practice about 4 hours a day. I had gotten so sick and so frustrated, I ended up going outside of my insurance, going to specialists. I spent over $40,000 of my own personal funds going to different doctors, different specialists, endocrinologists, rheumatologists, and I would pay them, and they would all tell me the same thing, that you just eat too much food and you don't exercise enough. Well, I'm a bit of a hard-headed person, and I was going to prove them wrong. For my size, I should be having about 2,500 calories a day. I cut my food intake down to 850 calories a day. I was working out 2 hours a day, 5 days a week in the gym as hard as I could. And what ended up happening, in a month's time, I lost 1 pound. 1 pound. What happened is that I actually passed out at the gym. I wanted to call an ambulance. They woke me up. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I'd already been pretty sick of doctors. And what ended up happening is that a friend of mine sent me a book. And the book's called So What Do You Do When the Medication Stops Working? By Dr. Michael Johnson. He is a functional medicine, a neurology doctor. He's a chiropractor like myself. And got on the phone with him, and he said, look, I'll work with you. I'm pretty sure I can help you out after we did a consultation. He says we could do one or two things. You can come out to my office in Appleton, Wisconsin for 2 months, and I can take care of you and show you how to take care of your problem. Or you can stay there in Oceanside, and I'll show you how you can help yourself, and I'll teach you how to help other patients. Well, I took the second option. And so here I am, and 3 years after I came in contact with Dr. Johnson, and through him and some other doctors, I'm 50 pounds lighter. I've actually lost about 65 pounds in fat, put on about 10 pounds in muscle, and I'm doing much better. I just got back from the gym. I'm up at 5:30 every morning in the gym at 6 o'clock, come home, had a nice healthy breakfast, and now here I am doing my video with you. So why do I share this with you? Because I think it's important that your doctor understands your condition. Now, your autoimmune problem may not be like mine was attacking my thyroid and my brain, and that may not be what's happening. But you're going to understand through my video that autoimmune is autoimmune. The mechanism is the same, it just might be affecting different parts of your body. Once we got to the underlying cause of my autoimmune problem and addressed it, not only did I lose the weight and get the energy back, but I enjoy life again. I'm feeling great. I love my practice. I love my patients, my staff. I have a great time with all the things that I enjoy in life. And that's exactly what I want to do for you. That's exactly what I want you to experience. And I think it's good for you to know that when you talk to me about your problems, I'm listening and I'm understanding, because I used to be on that side of the relationship of a doctor and a patient. So that's why I share that information with you. So let's move on to the topic here. So what is an autoimmune? Well, first of all, in the United States, it's increasing every year. Autoimmune conditions are just incredibly. Most cases are not diagnosed. Doctors are looking at all these other different things. Most cases continue to progress. That is definitely the case. That's how it was with me, and that's how I hear it from most of the patients. Conventional healthcare has very little to offer besides steroids. We're going to go into what steroids do and how that affects you. Maybe want to rethink taking steroids. Conventional and alternative healthcare, they may not fully understand autoimmunity. They might think that you throw supplements or steroids at it to cover up the symptoms, but that's not going to work. And the main thing that I want you to get from right here from this first slide is that it leads to tissue destruction. Your body is actually attacking you. So there's a big difference between autoimmune reaction and autoimmune disease. Autoimmune reaction. Your body is set up to protect you. Your body's immune system is set up to attack any foreign invader. So when you get a parasite, a bacteria, a virus, pollution, metal toxicity, poisons, pesticides, anytime any of those things come into your body is naturally, automatically going to fight that and take care of it properly. Autoimmune disease, on the other hand, is your body is attacking you. Your body has misunderstood that you are not a disease. You are not an outside problem that the body has to deal with. And it starts attacking healthy, normal tissue. We're going to go into that quite a bit. So I want to be really clear about things, how I do things in my practice. I tell patients that I never ever cure anything. The only thing that ever cures is you. Only your body can cure your problem. So when a physician says to you, "Oh, we're going to cure your problem," or "We're going to cure this autoimmune issue," um, that's false. The doctor never ever ever cures. Only your body can do the curing. And so there is no outside cure, but there's many natural protocols that greatly improve your life and can preserve your body, stop that tissue destruction. So, like I said, our autoimmune conditions, our immune system is mistakenly attacking healthy tissue in the body. So it's making auto-antibodies. It's not distinguishing between self and non-self. See, parts of your immune system aren't working properly. Some are doing hypofunction, which means less than normal, and some are doing hyperfunction. And I want to again just reiterate, autoimmune is autoimmune is autoimmune. The only difference is that which tissue is being attacked. What is it? Your nervous system for MS? Is it your skin for vitiligo or psoriasis? Is it your joints with rheumatoid arthritis? Where is it attacking you is what your symptoms are going to be. But the mechanism is the same every single time. So here's some common autoimmune conditions: Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Graves' thyroiditis, psoriasis, type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, lupus, pernicious anemia, Sjögren's syndrome, hepatitis AI, scleroderma, Guillain-Barré syndrome, Addison's disease, Meniere's disease, sarcoidosis, ulcerative colitis, vitiligo, Raynaud phenomenon, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, and many, many more. There are estimates that there's 500 million people in the United States that are suffering from this disease. 500 million. That's a huge part of our population. If you're autoimmune against one tissue, you're probably autoimmune against multiple issues. This is by Aristo Vajani, PhD, Master of Science, and then also an MT. The reason why I quote him is that this is one of the number one specialists in the world on being able to diagnose autoimmune conditions through testing. And what this doctor has found is that once you have an autoimmune problem and once it starts attacking one part of your body, it's probably going to start attacking multiple other areas as well. Why does this happen? Because unfortunately, I live in a toxic soup environment. You do too. Our great-grandparents only had to deal with whole regular food. Nothing was processed, nothing was made in a microwave, nothing was loaded with chemicals to preserves. The fruit and the vegetables that were grown weren't loaded with pesticides. Do you know the United States government allows 97 different pesticides to be used on our fruits and vegetables, and over 70 of them are known to be carcinogenic, and yet it's still allowed to be used. Also, the viruses, the molds, the parasites, the bacteria, they've had to learn how to adapt to our toxic environment, and they can adapt much, much faster than we can. So the strains of those are becoming much stronger. So the reason why I bring this up is that your immune system and my immune system is on constant alert, is constantly being bombarded by chemicals and parasites and molds and viruses and herbicides and toxic material pollution constantly. And what does that do? It revs it up. It revs it up and it starts making it so it kind of goes crazy and starts attacking, other parts of your body. And that's not what we want. Now, you can't move to the moon. There isn't really any part on the planet you can eat perfectly clean and be away from all these things. So I'm going to show you and teach you how you can best to avoid being affected by these problems. So right now I'm going to ask you to do me a big favor. I'm going to ask you to take everything that you know, everything you've learned, everything you understand about health, medicine, disease, wellness, all those things, and I want you to take it and kind of crumple it up like a little piece of paper and take it out of your brain. The reason why I'm going to ask you to do that is because I'm going to present a whole new way to look at how your body functions and what the breakdown and what symptoms really truly mean. If you listen to me for the next period of time here, and at the end it doesn't make any sense, pick up that piece of paper and put it right back in your brain. But I'm going to invite you to follow along with me, open your mind and listen to what I have to say. Because this is what I did. I opened my mind, found the right doctor, and it changed my life. And that's what I would like to have happen for you. So first of all, you have to understand that all chronic illnesses are a combination of a neurological and metabolic problem requiring proper metabolic treatment and proper neurological treatment. If you do not deal with the neurological and the metabolic part of each chronic condition, you will never, ever get better. You can take a medication that maybe changes your metabolism or your brain a little bit, and it'll give you some temporary relief, but it's not going to fix your problem. It's not going to give you the results you want. And the vast majority of the time that I hear from patients who went that route before they came to me is that they tell me that eventually the symptoms just became horrifically bad and they couldn't understand why. So, all chronic health conditions have some common threads. So there's autoimmune conditions, there's thyroid conditions, peripheral neuropathy. These are all the chronic conditions that we see in our office. I know sometimes we think, oh, you're a jack of all trades because you think that these are all different problems. These are just all different aspects of one underlying problem, that the neurological and metabolic systems in your body aren't functioning properly. So we have insulin resistance, diabetes, fibromyalgia, vertigo, sciatica, chronic fatigue syndrome, hypertension, chronic neck and back pain, stenosis, irritable bowel syndrome, insomnia, ADHD and ADD spectral syndromes. We also have migraine and chronic headaches. These are chronic conditions. Now, if you have an acute problem like a heart attack, a broken bone, trouble birthing a baby, by all means, do it in the United States. We are the #1 acute treatment facility in the world, for sure, by far. Where we fall short, though, is chronic conditions. Chronic conditions are the conditions that worsen over a period of time, and if you cover up the symptoms with a medication, not only will the condition get worse and the symptoms will start to exert themselves, you'll have to start taking medications for your medication. So the common threads with chronic conditions are there could be metabolic imbalances like anemia, chronic inflammation, unstable blood sugar, adrenal gland dysfunction, hormone imbalances, autoimmune attacks like we're talking about. We're having hidden infections, food sensitivities, medication side effects, hypoxia, which is low oxygen. Also, there could be neurological imbalances, which is a decreased firing of the brain, which is and the rest of the nervous system, and we call that fatigue. So let's understand what is an autoimmune and the physiology behind it. So your immune system actually has two parts. There's the natural barriers of the skin, the lungs, the eyes, the mucus, gut flora. That's the germs that are the good germs that are inside your digestive system. And all those things are barriers, like the skin has enzymes, your lungs cough and sneeze, your eyes have tears, mucus is in the respiratory tract to trap pathogens, the bad guys, and then your gut flora competes with the bad pathogens, the bad germs. Then you have your white blood cells. This is where autoimmunity comes in. So there's the T helper 1 and the T helper 2 white blood cells. T helper 1's also known as cell-mediated or innate immune response. So these are the front line. So when something nasty comes into your body, these are the first guys, all right? These are the Marines. They land on the beach, they parachute in, and boom, they start taking on the enemy by attacking them straight ahead. Now, the Th2 is known as the humoral response or the adaptive immune response. So these are the cells that tag the invader with antibodies for more efficient immune response if exposed again. This is the theory behind vaccines. You get a shot with an attenuated virus of the thing that you're trying to be vaccinated against. Your body builds antibodies to it. So the next time that invader comes into your body, you already have a set of cells, antibodies that are going to go ahead and attack the cell there, the invader. So why do we have autoimmune diseases? Okay, well, this is when the body attacks itself. And so there are two responses in your immune system, like we said, the Th1 and the Th2 response. When a person is autoimmune, One of these systems is hyperfiring. It's doing too much or it becomes dominant. So balancing the system is what you need to help you with your patient's symptoms. So as you look right here, as the Th1 goes too high, well, the Th2 goes too low. As the Th2 goes too high, then the Th1 goes too low. So with an imbalance in this system, this is what causes autoimmune problems. So there's two ways that you get it. So first of all, to trigger an autoimmune response in your body, it starts dysregulation. That means the immune system is imbalanced because of stressors to it. If you are out there in the world and your immune system is being bombarded all the time, like we talked a little bit about before, it's not going to work the way it's supposed to. So if you have chronic inflammation from your diet, bad blood sugar, bad adrenal glands, hormone imbalances, neurological imbalances, sometimes autoimmune situations get started in pregnancy, or low vitamin D. This kind of dysregulation causes an imbalance in the immune system, so the Th1 and the Th2 go out of balance, and guess what? You develop an autoimmune problem. Also, there could be an active antigen. That's the thing that's coming into your system on a regular basis. It's the invader. Chronic infections like bacteria, viral, mold, infection in your gut, food sensitivities, environmental toxins, and leaky gut syndrome, which we're going to talk about. So speaking of leaky gut, so the scientific literature is showing us that now leaky gut syndrome is a prerequisite to autoimmune disease. What do I mean by leaky gut? Well, what happens is that your body is supposed to attack it, is not to attack itself. What it's supposed to do is that it's supposed to protect you. Your digestive system is a tube from your mouth to the back door. That tube, even though when you eat the food disappears, it's really not in your body. It doesn't get in your body until it crosses over from the digestive tube into your bloodstream. Now, what's supposed to be normal to getting across into the bloodstream? Well, broken down food, water, vitamins, minerals, those are all the things that are supposed to get in there. But because of a poor diet, stress, medication, environmental toxins, what happens is the very tight junctions that are in between the cells in your small intestine, they start to be broken down. And now you get these holes where chunks of stuff can get into your bloodstream and start causing the autoimmune response. Now, the scary part is that 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your digestive system. And so this makes sense because 70 to 80% of everything that gets into your body comes through your mouth. Everything else comes in through the air and through the skin. So what ends up happening is that to protect you when the body is halfway normal, the immune system's there to fight the germs and the parasites and the invaders that come in through that system. But what happens is that when you have leaky gut, your immune system becomes overwhelmed and it starts attacking other things. So not to get too fancy here, but you get the inflammation in your digestive system, and then this is from an immune reaction to food sensitivity or an infection or a toxin that gets into your body. This produces inflammatory cytokines, all right? These cytokines are the byproduct of the Th1 and the Th2 system that causes leaky gut. This causes more food sensitivities, and now you have more gut inflammation. Also, these inflammatory cytokines cross over into the blood. Guess where your blood goes? Yeah, it reacts with the brain immune cells called microglial. This causes inflammation in your brain. This is why the stomach is called the second brain. You do not take care of your digestive system, you are going to have a metabolic problem because you're not absorbing the nutrients right, you're having inflammation from this response from the leaky gut, and then you're going to have neurological problems. Your brain becomes inflamed. I use the analogy, when you get a concussion, that is it's a localized inflammation. What happens to people with brain concussions? They can't remember things. They lose track of time. They can't remember how to do things like how to drive a car. They lose issues. They have to be retrained on certain things. As the inflammation goes away and the swelling goes down, a lot of the symptoms of a concussion could go away. But what happens when somebody has multiple concussions over a period of time? Those problems don't go away. Then you end up with a thing that's called concussive syndrome, all right, traumatic brain injury. Well, the same thing is happening to your brain because you have a problem with this leaky gut. Now, when I talk about food sensitivities, I'm not talking about that you eat the food and you get sick or have to have some poor kid that is allergic to peanuts and eats the peanuts and has to go to the hospital or has to get a shot because of anaphylactic reaction. That's not what I'm talking about. Food sensitivities could be as simple as you don't even feel anything, but this inflammation is going on, and it goes on so regularly, you think it's normal. So we gotta fix the leaky gut. So, steroids, let's talk about that. That is the #1 treatment for autoimmune problems. Why? What do steroids do? They damage your nervous system. They damage the immune system. Therefore, your body doesn't have as much of a reaction because you've knocked down the immune system. So there's definitely a alternative to steroids, much, much better, and I'll get into all of that in a moment. But I got this off of a website that is for a steroid for an autoimmune condition for the lungs. And I'm just going to read this to you, so forgive me for turning my back to you here, but I want to read this to you. This is on a website. This is actually people who are promoting this drug. The long-term side effects of steroid use are quite variable and can be severe. When taken for prolonged periods, a month or two, they can turn off steroid production by the adrenal glands and or turn off the signal to make steroids by the pituitary gland, and this can cause increased appetite, weight gain, deposition of fat in specific locations. The widow's hump, you start getting that hunchback kind of look thing, moon faces, big swollen face. You lose calcium from the bone. It accentuates or causes the appearance of diabetes, cataracts, accentuation or appearance of high blood pressure, avascular necrosis of the bone. This is death of the bone due to blood loss. Your bones can start dying. Increased susceptibility to infection. Why? Because we're killing off the immune system. Appearance of infection caused by organisms that normally don't lead to infection, known as opportunistic infection. Activations of dormant infections, such as tuberculosis. Develop the so-called steroid psychosis. Okay, your brain, remember? The inflammation affecting the brain. Steroid myopathy, this is loss of muscle tissue and muscle strength. Ulcers of the stomach and duodenum. Poor wound healing, low potassium, bruising, thinning of the skin, changes in the menstrual cycle, acne, hair growth, anxiety, insomnia. Listen to this. Doctors avoid prescribing steroids unless necessary because when used long-term, steroids therapy have so many possible consequences. Now, but they have to put this in there because they want you to take their steroid. However, for many people with lung disease, steroid medication is quite helpful and when needed, should not be overly feared. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to take steroids. My goodness. Talk about the cure is worse than the disease. Look at, you're gonna, oh my gosh. This is just amazing to me. And this is where we are today. Our healthcare system is really a disease care, and it is pharmaceutically driven. The pharmaceutical companies are the #1 lobbyist to our government. Why does a company that supposedly just makes things to help people have to lobby and spend so much money to get the laws changed to make it easier to get their medications out? And why do they have to lower the amount of money a person can sue a pharmaceutical company for if they become damaged, right? I have a patient right now. Poor gal went in, she had a very small 2-3 millimeter swelling in her brain that was causing some problems with speech, and she had a little bit of a decreased sensation on her right side. They went in and they did a treatment for her to help her, and she went into a full-blown stroke, and now she can barely talk, and she has no use of her right arm and hand and no use of her right leg, and she's in a wheelchair. Now we're going to see what we can do for her, but if this woman had had no treatment at all, she wouldn't have gone through this. I went through 65 pages of her records, and guess what? Nobody in there said sorry. Nobody said, gee, this was dumb that we did this. This was a bad choice. They just called her an unfortunate woman. Like it was her fault. So I just want to be really clear about something, and maybe you can do this with me. So I want you to do this right now. I want you to think of 2 things you can do in your life right now that would make you healthier. Right? 2 things. I'll give you 5 seconds. Great, you got those two things? All right. Let me know if either of those would take more drugs. See, my point is drugs won't do it for you. You have always got to get to the underlying cause of a chronic condition. You always have to get to the underlying neurological and metabolic problems, and you have to address both of those at the same time, and that's how you beat autoimmune conditions, not covering up your symptoms and causing a lot of side effects. I find it very interesting that I have patients that come in, and one time I had a gal that had 15 different medications, and I asked her to make 2 piles. Take 1 pile, and those are your original medications, and then what are the medications that you're taking for the side effects of the original medications? 6 were original, 9 were for the symptoms that are being caused from the medications. And she said, I am an idiot. And she started crying. I said, what's going on? And she goes, I go to my doctor, it's the doctor I have to go to because of my insurance, and I'm an idiot. Why am I taking 9 different drugs to cover up the symptoms from the 6 drugs that are taking that aren't even really helping me? I feel sicker than I've ever felt, and I'm on 15 medications. So I just want to be really clear that, I asked you to take out the way you think about things, and our society has been so kind of brainwashed that take a pill for all your ills. It just doesn't work that way. Certainly not when you have an chronic condition. So what do I do? Well, this is how we do this instead of giving you drugs. First of all, with proper testing, we identify and remove the triggers. So we deal with your leaky gut syndrome. We do infection testing, support the mitochondria. This is the part of the cell that actually produces the energy. It's like your gasoline production company. You need to have healthy mitochondria to give you energy to run your body. We look for digestive gut infections and get rid of those. Unstable blood sugar. If your blood sugar is going up and down, that creates havoc in your body with inflammation, causes your immune system to have trouble. Got to get that under control. Food sensitivity is really big. We got to find out what foods are you putting in your mouth that are making you sick. Again, you may not feel sick when you eat them, but we got to figure out what they are and got to get those out of there. Chronic inflammation and metal toxicity. You got fillings in your mouth. Around here, when we do metal testing, a lot of people have problems with lead. A lot of people have problems with uranium. These are terrible things to have in your body. These cause your immune system to just go wonky and start attacking all kinds of different parts of your body. Now, one of the things that I hear on a regular basis is that, oh, Dr. Harper, I don't need any testing because all my labs are normal. Well, let me let you in on a dirty little secret. Lab ranges are completely inaccurate because they use Bell curves. Let me let you know this. So when school started and they started to have to figure out, how are we going to grade students? We have to put them on some kind of rating scale. Well, they came up with this thing called the Bell curve, and because it looks like a bell. So on one side is going to be 20% too low, 60% are going to be the normal or average, and then 20% are going to be high. So the high is your A and your B, the average is C, and down here you have your D's and your F's. And, we don't need to argue the benefits or the problems with that, but it seems to work at least a little bit. On the other hand, this is how you get your lab ranges figured out. Every year, all the labs that people go and do in our country go and they are collated and they take averages. So they do this 20% too low, 20% too high, and 60% in the middle. So they take all these numbers. Let me ask you a question. Who's going and getting labs done? In our country, you don't go and get healthy labs, right? That's pretty rare, maybe once a year. But when people have chronic conditions and they're going and getting multiple labs done, these are sick people. So when you get your 20-60-20 bell curve for labs, this is 60% of what's normal for sick people, right? That doesn't make any sense. So I use what are called functional lab values. They're much more sensitive to reveal problems. Let me demonstrate. So here's your 20% too low, 20% too high, and here is your 60% average. This would be the normal lab ranges. The functional lab ranges are smaller. Therefore, I can pick up problems sooner and we can address them before they become these big giant problems outside of the normal 60%. So let me give you an example here. So if you come into a medical doctor's office, they're going to use blood sugar range 65 to 110. That's 45 points. That's almost the total of the bottom number, right? That's almost half of the top number. Your body's way more sensitive to that. You know, when you go to fill up your car with gasoline, you have 3 octane changes, and it makes a big difference to the function of your car depending on which octane it needs. Those octanes are only 2 points off from each other, 87, 89, and 91. Yet it makes a big difference in the way that your car works. Do you think that the fuel for your body is allowed to be with such a big giant range? Right? You have 10,000 chemical reactions every minute, and every single one of those requires glucose, requires energy. So if you come in and you get tested at 73, your physician's going to say, hey, you're great, because you're right in this range. In my office, I use 85 to 100, very narrow range for blood sugar. Why? Because your body is way more sophisticated, even though the fanciest car that you could drive. And so when I see a 73 with this, I say, hey, we're going to have to deal with this hypoglycemia. You're running on fumes. No wonder you're not feeling well. No wonder there's lots of inflammation. Your body's breaking down your muscle trying to look for fuel. We don't want that. So this is why I use the functional ranges, and this is why you're told that your tests are all normal. So that doesn't work. So based upon your history, we may run any of the following tests, and then we look at the functional values. So in our office, we actually do DNA testing. This is a saliva test that we use through 23andMe. Now, I have patients that have gone online and they've done this test themselves, and then they pay for go to a software and they plug in this information, and then they just start taking vitamins for all the areas that they're having problems with this test. That doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. Again, we are not a test tube. You can't throw a chemical in and expect one response. Like I said, there's 10,000 chemical reactions a minute. How can you throw in one chemical and expect it to do just one thing? So we do the DNA, the mitochondrial genetic testing. We do a complete metabolic panel. We're going to look at your thyroid markers. And this is where I got messed up. I would go to my insurance doctors and traditional medical doctors, and they would use the standard thyroid panel. Guess what that is? 3 tests, right? TSH, T3, and T4, right? In my panel, I do anywhere from 7 to 9 different tests. Because I was able, with the test that I did with Dr. Johnson, I was able to see that I have antibodies to my thyroid gland. And that's why I was so sick. My thyroid gland was being destroyed by my own body. When I got to the underlying cause of why that was happening and got rid of that and took care of that and made some changes in my life, everything was different. And my body went back to normal. Now my thyroid works really well. Now my thyroid provides me with the energy and the metabolism that I need. It works very well. We also do all kinds of other things like HA1C, lipids, CBC with auto differential. So that means we're looking at your red blood cells, your white blood cells. We're looking at do you have infections? Do you have anemias? We do hormone testing for some people. It's a urine test, and it looks at adrenal hormones, your cortisol, male-female hormones, because if these things are out of balance, it can cause a problem with your immune system, and it could start attacking different parts of your body. Metal toxicity and mineral deficiency. This is a great test. It's a hair test. We take out an ounce of hair off the back of your head, underneath the hair. Nobody gets to see where it was cut away. It grows back, and it's amazing. And like I said, if you have metal toxicity, it's a big problem. If you have mineral deficiencies, which show up very well in the hair, not so good in your urine and blood, you have to have proper minerals. Everybody knows that you got to have vitamins. Everybody knows this. Right? But vitamins without minerals is like taking a piece of meat, putting it in some water, putting it in a pan, and setting on the stove, but you don't turn on the flame. The minerals are the flame of your body's ability to use those vitamins so your body can be happy and healthy. Also, we do antibody testing, all right? We do food sensitivities tests to see 135 different foods and food additives to see if they're doing that. So we'll test you for gluten and multiple other foods. We test you to see if you have leaky gut syndrome. Autoimmune tests to include measuring to see if your immune system is mistakenly attacking over 90 different tissues in your body. This is critical information to know. Without this information, we're just guessing. And I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to your health and your happiness, I will never guess. I will never, ever guess. You deserve a lot better than that. So see, autoimmunity is a metabolic problem, and it involves multiple body systems. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to take all 10,000 of those chemical reactions, and I'm going to make it that happen every minute in your body. And we're going to make it into one. You eat food, and it makes energy. The body needs energy to drive every single one of those chemical reactions. So I'm going to ask you a question. 30% of our energy goes to what system? Is it the endocrine system, digestive system? Is it the nervous system, immune system, or cardiovascular system? Well, it's the nervous system, the brain, spinal cord, and the nerves. So the take-home message is that if you have a metabolic problem, your brain won't work right because your brain is the most metabolically active organ in your body. Your brain takes up only about 4% of your body weight, but it uses almost a full third of your energy. That's like inviting 100 people to a party and 4 of them eat almost a third of all the food. That's not going to make you very happy. So your brain won't be happy if you don't give it the fuel and the clean environment that it needs. You get brain fatigue and misfiring. This is why you get all these brain symptoms. So a brain that's not working right, you could get chronic pain and chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, urinary tract infections, fibromyalgia. You could have migraine tension headaches, poor posture, this kind of Bigfoot hunching kind of thing, adrenal gland stimulation that makes you anxious. You can have blurred vision, increased sweating. You can have difficulty falling or staying asleep, insomnia. You can have dizziness, vertigo, heart palpitations, increased heart rate, high blood pressure, cold hands and feet, sensitivity to light and sound. If you have a cerebellum fatigue, that's in the back part of your brain, that could be loss of balance, vertigo, chronic neck and back pain, headaches, clumsiness, dropping things, disorganized thinking, and a lack of output to the upper brain, the frontal, parietal, and temporal lobes. And with that results in the lack of inhibition of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. You can also get depression, anxiety, difficulty scanning pages while reading, difficult adding or subtracting, difficulty verbally expressing yourself, difficulty understanding language, decreased memory, learning difficulties, lack of focus, altered sensations like numbness, tingling, burning, changes in handwriting, anger and increased irritability because the frontal lobe, the part of your brain that knocks back your animal impulses isn't doing its job. You can have body weakness, lack of motivation, learning disabilities like dyslexia, ADD, and ADHD. So how does this happen? Well, poor energy production starves the brain of the energy, the gasoline it needs to function properly, and you get fewer nerve impulses. So how can the process end correctly if it can't even start correctly with a bad brain? If your brain, the part of the process is to tell the body how to work and function, and that isn't going to be able to work if you have a bad brain. So how do you know if you have a bad brain? Well, you get all those symptoms. Primarily, though, anxiety, depression, insomnia, forgetfulness, brain fog, and personality changes. Now, I know most of you are sitting there right now going, oh my gosh, I'm doomed. I have almost all of this stuff, or quite a few. That's okay. Because I tell people, the more problems you have, the more symptoms you have, the better your life can improve. Right? The more problems you have, the more room there is for improvement. So, take heart. So how do we test and support your brain? Well, like I said, I do a functional neurological exam. Good thing I'm one of the rare board members of the American Functional Neurology Institute. I really know how to evaluate you. So I use functional neurology, so I do a very thorough neurological exam that checks how the various parts of your brain, your nervous system, your midbrain, your peripheral nervous system, see how they're working. Has a physician ever checked your brain to see how it's functioning in relationship to your autoimmune condition? Unless you have like MS or something like that, multiple sclerosis, something that's being affected by the brain and the nervous system, I don't think they're ever going to look at it. And it's a real shame. I have patients that come to me and they've been to Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, other places around the country, really top-notch places. And when I'm halfway through with my neurological exam, they say, what are you doing? I said, my standard neurological exam. Well, how come Dr. So-and-so didn't do that part or this thing? I don't know. Most of the patients tell me the doctor seemed to be in a rush to get to the next patient, and after just a few simple tests, decided that they'd send them off for testing, and that's all they got. So in addition to the specialized exam, our office is one of the few in the country that uses QEEG, qualitative electroencephalograph, to evaluate the brain and its use, and we use neurofeedback to retrain parts of the brain to become healthy again. So this is Frank Duffy, MD. All right, this guy's pretty bright. He's a neurologist. He's the head of neuroimaging department, and he's the head of the neuroimaging research at Boston's Children's Hospital, one of the top-notch hospitals in all the world. He's also a Harvard Medical School professor. Pretty bright guy. He conducted an independent review of all the literature on neurofeedback for clinical EEG, and he summarized his findings in these 2 sentences. The literature, which lacks any negative study of substance, which means nobody got hurt, suggests that an EEG biofeedback therapy should play a major therapeutic role in many difficult areas, different cases. And to further his quote, in my opinion, if any medicated had demonstrated such a wide spectrum of efficacy, that means works so well without causing any problems, it would be universally accepted and widely used. Now, I hear this all the time. Well, Dr. Harper, if what you do or this neurofeedback stuff is so great, how come we don't know about it? Again, we are in a pharmaceutically driven system. If you do not make money for the pharmaceutical companies, whatever you come up with is probably going to be put down. It's going to be taken out of what's called outside of standard of care. Standard of care is what insurance companies will pay for. Do you know who contributes to helping the insurance companies understand what's standard of care? Pharmaceutical companies. If you're doing something that is not pharmaceutically company sponsored, then it's not going to be covered by insurance. And that's just how it is. It's a real shame. And you say, you mean they'd rather pay for, this, that, and the other that doesn't work, and instead of this that does work? Exactly. Exactly. So this is the kind of readout that we get when we do a brain map. What you're looking here is the 4 different brain waves, delta, theta, alpha, and beta. And you see all these colors here. So when we do the brain mapping, these should all be green. Green means that the brain wave in that part of the brain was normal. When you see the yellow and the red, that is telling us that those brain waves are too high, too strong in that part of the brain. That'll cause problems. When we see the light blue and the dark blue, that means it's too low. That'll cause problems too. So this is a patient that came to me with insomnia, anxiety, depression, and slow metabolism. Sounds like a lot of you out there. What happened is that when we did this brain mapping, this is what I pointed out, and this is how I explained it to her. I said, think of these 4 different brain waves as members of a band. You have your drummer, bass player, lead guitar, and you got your lead singer. When they are all doing the same song, same volume, same tempo, same key, that sounds like a pretty decent song. If one of them was to step out and play a different song, or if in a different key or different tempo, our brains would pick up on that anomaly. It would pick up on that difference. We would suddenly ignore the 3 that are doing it correctly, and we would focus in on the one that's not. So what we do is I focus in on the areas of the brain that are not having proper brain waves, and if they're yellow or reds or too high, we want to train those down. If they're light blue or dark blue, we want to train those up. So when we do the neurofeedback treatment, all you do is you sit and watch a movie. Isn't that great? Or if you're not much of a movie person, you can listen to your favorite music. You bring these things into us. We also have Netflix and music channels and all kinds of things that we can have access to. The way it works is that you just sit there, and there's a couple little sensors on your ears, and then there's a couple sensors depending on what part of the brain that we want to work on. And the computer is measuring how high or how low those brain waves are in that specific brain wave. So as the brain waves, we tell the computer we want to train down the high ones, we want to raise up the low ones. And as long as you're in a specific range of doing that, the movie or the music's playing for you. Within 1/10 of a second that your brain is not training properly, those things turn off. Now, as you're watching or listening, your brain's tuned into this. When those things go away, your brain says, hey, I was watching that, I was listening to that. And it tries to come up with ways to bring it back. Now, sometimes patients think, oh, I'm going to sit there and try real hard to bring it back. Well, I don't want you doing that. See, your brain is so sophisticated that it's way smarter than you could ever be. So what you're going to do is you're just going to sit there, and your brain's going to try and find a way to bring it back. And then, within a tenth of a second, you're training your brain right, boom, it's back. So the brain says, hey, I know how to keep this movie here. I know how to keep the music here. And it trains your brain. So it retrains your brain to fix this. And the good news is neurofeedback treatment is permanent. Just like when you learned to ride a bicycle, all right? I hope you got that chance to do that. When I learned to ride a bicycle, I remember taking off and I fell on the right side and it hurt my arm. And my brain says, hey, I don't want to do that. So we took off and I fell on the left side. Brain says, hey, I don't want to do that. Because of the feedback of the falling, my brain was able to figure out how to keep me going forward and keep me balanced so I didn't fall. That's natural neurofeedback. By using our system, we could use that very same approach to retraining your brain how to work right. And it works just incredibly. The patient that I showed you before with all the anxiety, depression, insomnia, metabolic issues, did great. She did fantastic, much, much better. Very pleased that she came to our office and followed through with the neurofeedback. So this is bringing me to a key point. What makes our office different from every other doctor that you've ever seen? Well, we treat patients neurologically and metabolically at the same time. You're all one system. Your brain and your nervous system tells the body how to produce energy and keep it clean. And the metabolic, the organs produce the energy and keep the body clean that allows the brain to function right. As one goes down, the other goes down. As this goes down, this goes down. And it's a terrible race down here. What we do is we turn that around. And as we work with your metabolic systems and we work with your brain and your nervous system, we turn them both around. And as one goes up, the other goes up. And as this goes up, this goes up. This makes a lot of sense to me, and I sure hope it's making a lot of sense to you. See, I'm here to tell you that no stone is left unturned to determine the exact cause of your condition. You need a doctor that specializes like a detective, all right? CSIU, all right? Not the letter U, YOU. I want to figure out what is the underlying cause of your problem, just like Dr. Michael Johnson did for me. Once you figure out what the underlying cause of the problem is and you know how to address that, then we work like a coach and a player together, teamwork, and we get that figured out. And then the best thing I can do for you is I'm going to teach you how to stay happy and healthy for the rest of your life. So you don't need me, and you probably won't need anybody else. Because your body works a certain way. And once we get it working that way, you'll know how to keep it that way. It's beautiful the way we do this. I love what I do. I don't know if it shows through the video. In my workshops, I'm a little more animated than this because with a live crowd. But I absolutely love this. This is really great. I make a decent living. I get to wear my scrubs, what I call my pajamas to work. But it's the joy in turning people's lives around that just makes it so exciting and so fun. So, what's next? Well, we're always going to tell you what's next. We're always going to tell you what has to be done with your time, your finances, and anything that you need to do, and then anything that I need to do to get you better. So, first 2 visits. Visit 1, the complete neurological exam. Review any existing labs. Bring them in. I'll go over them with you and tell you what they tell me. Fill out a thing that's called the metabolic assessment form. I think we're up to about 300 different symptoms, and you're going to rate yourself on those symptoms. 3 if you have it all the time, 0 means you don't have it ever, 1 and 2 is something in between. I add those all up. That tells me something very important. I can save you thousands of dollars if you fill out this paperwork. Take about an hour. Be slow, thoughtful, methodical, honest. Tell me exactly, because this is going to tell me an awful lot about you. When I have patients that just circle big blocks of zeros or, there's hardly anything on there, but, their symptoms are telling me all this other stuff, but the paperwork doesn't match, I say, well, we have a choice. Either I don't accept you as a patient, or you're going to be paying, $2,000, $3,000 more for labs that are totally unnecessary. What do you want to do? Well, where's that paperwork? Let me fill it out again. So please do that. You got to be there on day 1 and day 2 with your spouse, significant other, anybody that's going to have any say about you having care, transportation, time, finances, what you do. And the reason why they need to be there is because, first of all, this is a team approach. I learned a long time ago that everything I do is about results, patient results. So everything we do is geared to get you better. When we don't have the significant other or the spouse that's there and they understand why you need to change your diet, why you need to take these supplements, why you need to go do these exercises, why you need to go to the doctor's office, why, they sabotage the whole thing. They become somebody that is fighting against us. They actually kind of become part of your condition that we're trying to fix. Since I made it mandatory that this person is always to be at those first 2 visits, our success rate's gone up. Why? Because now there's 2 people at home that are working on this, not just 1. See, I have 3 on the team instead of 2, right? I'd much rather play a basketball game with 3 people against 2 than 2 against 2, right? 3 against 2, if they're, obviously decent players, we're going to have a much better advantage to beat those 2 other people. So I go really strong about this. It's super important. The other thing, too, is that when you have somebody that understands why you're having this problem, this has made a big difference in a lot of people's relationships. See, when I got sick, I was the love of my life. She left. She couldn't take it that I'd gotten so fat. She couldn't take it that I was grumpy and upset, that I was lethargic, wasn't funny anymore, didn't want to do fun things anymore. And, she'd go with me to some of these other medical doctors, and they'd tell me it was in my head, it was my fault, blah, blah, blah. She didn't want to be with somebody like that. When somebody comes and hears that this isn't you, this isn't in your head, it's something that's in your body. It's something that needs to be addressed as a team approach. I see relationships come to get better. I've seen people, I have patients that come say, my spouse hasn't said I love you ever since I've been sick with this thing. Ever since the medical doctors are blaming me for having this problem. I'm making this up for attention. And when I tell them that, that's not the case at all and I can prove it to them, the relationship gets better. So I'd like that for you as well. So if I can accept you into my care programs on the day 2, I'll go over further complete testing that needs to be done. I'll review the neurological findings from day 1. We'll overview the treatment plan. We'll review of fees. And again, the spouse significant other needs to be there as well. Everything I tell you, everything about your evaluation, the treatment, the time, the finances, the payment options, everything's going to be in writing. Everything. There's not going to be any pressure. I promise you. Look, I am way too busy to try and convince anybody to do anything. Most of the patients come to see me when I say, Mrs. Jones, I have great news. I can significantly improve your life through the protocols that we use in this office, and I can accept you into our recovery program. They say, thank you, Dr. Harper. Thank you for finding a place that's going to really help me, really understands my problem, and is going to put in the time and the energy, and more than anything else, my heart into helping you. So I don't get this, well, let me think about whatever. If somebody does say that, I just say, hey, here's your paperwork. Give me a call when you're ready. All right? When this gets bad enough, let me know. Because people don't come to me as the first thing. I'm the last thing. I'm the last stop. All right? I can't tell you how many times in the consultations people say, Dr. Harper, if you don't help me, I'm just going to give up. I've been to 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 doctors. I had a gal that had been to 82 doctors before she saw me. Right? Guess what? She never saw number 84. Right? I was the end of the line. Thank goodness. So you are going to have all the clear information that you need to make a good decision whether this is for you or not. Go from there. What else do you need for your first appointment? Well, I need to get you from your elbows to your fingertips, your kneecaps to your toes, and I need to get you from the neck up. So I suggest you wear shorts, sweatpants, t-shirt, something like that. If you want to wear other clothes and then change at the office, that's just fine. We don't do gowns anymore. Got to have all your paperwork filled out. I've already gone over that. And you got to bring the spouse and significant other. One other thing, be on time. So I only accept 5 autoimmune patients a month. The first 2 visits usually cost $450. If you sign up after watching this video, then I only have to charge you $65 for the 2 visits. Now, and I'm going to actually include the brain mapping and the results, and that's another $250 value. So you might be saying, well, gee, Dr. Harper, normally it's $700 and now it's $65. How come? Because I don't have to spend an hour or more explaining what I do. See, before I used to have videos and workshops, I used to do all this information with everybody individually, right? And I decided I wanted to spend my time with patients, helping them. And so that's why I make these videos and why I have workshops. We can do this in a group presentation or in the comfort of your own home. You can decide whether this makes sense or not. And once we get that, for the 65, that'll include the report and written everything, and so you'll know everything you need to know. So let's talk about this. So this takes some commitment. I have some rules, and the rules always come from what makes success. So first of all, you got to be willing to make serious lifestyle changes. I have no idea what they are until you come in. You know, I have people come up and say, well, am I going to get to eat this? Am I going to get to eat that? And I said, I have no idea. But if you're what you're going to decide whether you're going to come to my office or not, or be a patient or not, is whether you get to eat ice cream or not. Don't come in. Don't come in. See, I don't know what you're going to eat. I don't know what you're food sensitive to. I don't know what's causing inflammation. I don't know what's causing your leaky gut. I don't know. See, this is why I don't do like most people do. They go to a doctor or a health food store. Oh, I have a thyroid problem. Oh, here, take iodine. Or here, take this thyroid hormone. Well, how do they know that you need that specifically? Oh, well, thyroid hormone's good for you if your thyroid's low. Oh, iodine's good for you if your thyroid's low. Not necessarily. With my problem, pre-Hashimoto's, if I took iodine, I'd have got a lot sicker. It would have caused me a lot more problems. So we don't do just a one case fits all, right? You have to take accountability for your health. I am so surprised how many people blame other people for their problem. Oh, this is my government's problem. This is my insurance company's problem. This is my parents' problem, right? These are my kids' problems. It's your problem. This is your problem. And when you take responsibility for your problem, guess what? You'll make the necessary changes and you'll do the necessary things to get better. Now, you also need to understand that insurance and Medicare only pay a very small portion of this care if they pay for any of it. See, I am totally what's called outside of standard of care. Like I mentioned before, when we do the blood work for your complete metabolic panel, and standard of care is 3 tests for thyroid, that's why mine went undiagnosed. I had to do 9 tests on my thyroid to get to the underlying cause of what my problem was. So, see, I don't know why it's this way, but they think it's much better to just do the 3 tests, just give people medication, just kind of keep them sick, keep them coming back into the doctor, keep them coming back for the medication. Then they're going to develop other health problems from taking the medication. So now you have to go to another specialist. You have to take another set of medications. It's lunacy. So the reason why I get into this is because I want you to understand that this is an individual program. This is why you're going to have to reach into your pocket. You have to step outside of the system that's causing you to be sick or sicker, and you're going to have to reach into your pocket to pay for that. I'm outside standard of care. But I want to let you know that our plans are so affordable that 96% of everybody who we accept into our programs can qualify for the care, and they pay for it. And you can do $200 to $400 a month on monthly payments for 18 months. Now, I'm really clear about this. My care plans are 6 to 12 months. So yes, you will be paying for the care after it's done. But you will have what I give you for the rest of your life. I will not only do the detective work to find out what's wrong with you, I not only will work with you as a team player to get you healthy, but I'm going to teach you how to take care of yourself for the rest of your life. My greatest gift is that I get you so healthy and we teach you how to stay that way, you won't need me or probably anybody else from here on out. I have patients that can barely get to my office because they're seeing, 4, 5, 6 other doctors, other specialists during the week that they have to work around all this time to see me. At the end of the care plan, most of them aren't seeing anybody else, maybe one other doctor. Maybe they may go from 12 medications down to 1. I have patients that are on medications that they need to take for the rest of their life is what they were told. And after their care with their physician, they were able to go off their meds. So I just want to be really clear. The other thing, too, is that you may be saying with this brain that's cloudy and foggy and sick, oh, I'm not going to do anything that insurance doesn't pay for. Well, you seem to find a way for anything else that you want. I bet that most people watching the video have a cell phone. How much is that every month? Do you have 2 or 3 cell phones on the plan? How much is that? Do you have cable? Do you have internet? Do you have satellite? No. How much is that every month? I'm sure you probably go out to dinner. You probably go out to have meals. How much does that add up to every month? Do you go on vacations? All right. You may not feel very well, but at least you're not in the same house. But what does that cost? I'm sure you have a car. I'm sure you have a house. Oh, well, I need those things. Well, you don't need all those things, all right? Yeah, you need a place to live and you need transportation, but you don't need all that other stuff, right? So you got to realize that if this is what you want, you'll find a way to make it happen. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious is your illness? How much is this bothering you? How's this affected your relationships, your work, your ability to enjoy life? You know, at the time I got sick, the love of my life left me, right? That was devastating to me. I went from a guy working, 50 hours a week to about 16 hours a week. How did that affect me, right? How was I able to enjoy life? I had gotten so miserable. My children weren't inviting me to family events. That's how bad I was. So I knew I had to do something. I had to fix that. Very important question. Scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about eliminating your illness? How serious are you about doing this? If you're a 7 or a less, please don't call me. Please wait till you get to be an 8, 9, 10. Because 7s or less, my experience has been is that they don't make the changes that are needed to be done. It's not important enough. And therefore, they don't get results. Now, in my office, your health, my reputation are the only two things that matter. And what I have found is that when people don't do what I say, they don't put a sign on their forehead that said, hey, I didn't do what Dr. Harper said. What they do is they go around and say, yeah, I paid that Harper guy and it didn't work. And they are messing with my reputation. Well, that's not going to happen. My experience has been in 30 years that 8, 9s, and 10s, you good folks are ready to make the changes. You are waiting for me to say, yes, you can be in my program and I can help you with this. And most people say, thank God, thank you. I am so happy that somebody's going to finally help me, listen to me, and get me better. So please, it's really important. 8, 9s, and 10s, call. 7 or less, please don't. Due to time constraints, I can only accept those who are truly committed. With that, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. If I was this was the kind of thing that didn't make any sense to you, please pick up that piece of paper, put it back in your brain. If it made sense to you, if you want to know if you could qualify for my recovery program to get rid of your autoimmune problem, stop the frustration, the blaming, the pain, the suffering, the confusion, the medications, the side effects of the medications you're taking for the side effects of the medications. If you're ready to get rid of all that nonsense, give our office a call, tell them you watched the video, and we'd be very happy to see if you qualify. The one last thing I want to let you know is that I love this. This is really the juice of my life. My Dr. Johnson, he saved my life. He saved my life. And because of that, because of the way I was raised, I feel an obligation and an opportunity to share the same with you. I would love to make the same changes for you. I would love for you to have the energy and the fun of life that I have now, and I would just be ever so happy to be part of your success story. God bless. Take care. We'll see you soon.